She's just looking.
Okay. So good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome, welcome. This is the Bezerra Spiritual Healing Center, our virtual services. We are a non-denominational spiritist center, and we respect all religions and spiritual traditions. So please bring your thoughts and questions. Welcome to everybody. Before we start the announcements, we always begin our service with a prayer. So if you don't mind, I'll be happy to say the prayer this morning since I was signed up to do so.
Well, I can do too if you want.
Okay, Regina, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Let us close our eyes. And for this blessed opportunity, let us lift our hearts and our minds to our divine Heavenly Father. And let us say, hello, Father, Mother God. Let us say hello to our mentors and to our Lord Jesus Christ. All of those who pray for us and provide courage and strength to our mental bodies. We thank you all so much. We give blessings and gratitude towards this beautiful planet in which we inhabit. We're grateful for the sun for providing nourishment to our bodies, to our food. Thank you, Father. Thank you so much. And in this moment, Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless our hearts and our minds to connect to the divine message today, and that we walk away with more than what we came with. May you bless our understanding. May you bless the spirit of truth in these moments that we have before us this morning. As we connect, we give thanks to you with much gratitude for all of the good spirits. In your name, Heavenly Father, we ask that you bless the opening of our service this morning. So be it. So be it. Rest of you're on mute.
Yes, thank you. I saw that. Thank you, Regina. Thank you for that beautiful prayer. Okay, and so we are a member of the United States Spiritist Federation, and our spiritual beliefs are based around scientific, philosophical, and religious principles. And as Emmanuel, the spirit mentor of Chico Xavier, taught us that knowledge and love are the two wings for our spiritual evolution. That's why our services are divided into two parts. The first part being the presentation where we can learn, gather knowledge, and the second part will be reserved for our healing, our virtual healing. And so we do have announcements. We have a lot of activity that happens at BSH. We have daily prayer, and all these times are for Pacific Standard Time. So if you live elsewhere, please accommodate the times. So there is a daily prayer at 6 p.m. every day. And then at 6:30 to 8:30 on Mondays, we have our internal healing services. And this is with the mediumship group of the BSH. And so if you have a family member, a loved one, or someone you know who you think could use some healing, either physical or spiritual, you can put their name in the chat. You can contact us via email or this bshcenter.org. And let us know their name and if you want physical or spiritual healing, and we can add them to the list. It's a 4-week healing service that we offer at a time, and then we change up to new names. And then on Tuesday, again at 6:30 with Divine Light, we are studying the book On the Canvas of the Infinite, and that's with Giovanni Pereira. On Wednesday, there is Heaven and Hell, again at 6:30. There's also a reminder that there is fraternal assistance. So if you just like to talk to someone or have an issue that you'd like some guidance, especially from a spiritist perspective, again, you can contact us at the bshcenter.org, or if you want to ask someone to contact you, you can write it in the chat and one of us will get back to you. And then I don't believe this Thursday, is this Thursday session still happening while Gina's away? The Living Spring.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so that there's another book study on Thursdays at 6:30, and that's The Living Spring, which is a book by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier, of course. And then we don't have any studies Friday or Saturday, but then today, here we are at the 10 a.m. Sunday service. And again, we will have a study at 6:30. And we're starting a new book today, which is The Messenger. So please feel free to join. And, even if you can't come every meeting session, come when you can, because these most of these books, each chapter is pretty individual occurrence. So there is our announcements. And let's see here. Okay, so after the speech or the presentation, Kiki will we'll have a little brief Q&A. We'll also take a quick break, and then we'll come back and start the virtual healing. And so I'd like to introduce Kiki, who is, I believe, I'm not sure, are you one of the founders of BSH?
No, I'm not.
No, okay. But she does a lot, so she might as well be considered a founder. But Kiki is...
Don't worry, sister. Don't have to introduce myself.
She is a great sister of ours. She's going to give us a wonderful talk this morning.
Thank you, sister. And actually, today we are continuing the study that Mark presented last week. So we've been studying the Spirit's book, and today we will discuss about the questions 392 until question 399. And I would want to bring all the questions for us to, talk about all of them, but that some questions the answers are too lengthy. So what I did was I brought the main part of each question, so then we can all discuss together. So please feel free, anyone, to jump in, to bring your perspective for us to, really make this as collaborative and as participative as possible. So as I was saying, this is part of chapter 7, which is return to physical life. So remember last week, Mark presented to us a couple of aspects on how the spirit would reincarnate or re-enter the body. And one of the aspects of this is the forgetfulness of the past. So there is a whole sub-chapter, I would say, that Allan Kardec dedicates to it, and we'll read all these questions. So it always starts with, why do we forget about the past? Like, why do we have to forget about the past? And then the answer is pretty straightforward, this one. He says that human beings cannot and must not know everything, because without that veil that hides things from our view, we would be overwhelmed with all the knowledge that we would acquire from past lives. So it is as if someone that goes suddenly from darkness to light, like when that light comes and then it takes a while and things get a little bit confused. So this is one of the biggest reasons why we do not remember. And the Spirit says that by forgetting our past, we are able to be ourselves more fully. And this all makes sense, right? Like when we think about we are able to truly understand the essence of who we are, regardless of what we know. If we knew that we were this and that before, how that would change our actions today. And actually, this is about changing, right? Like we are in this lifetime for us to evolve, for us to transform, but it's not for us to do that in a shallow way. It's not for us to do that in the surface of our life. So one of the biggest reasons is we forget, so then we can be truly ourselves and bring up the version, our version, the best or the worst, whatever we are committed to do to ourselves. But then on question 393, one of the things that Allan Kardec brings to us is, if the person does not know what happened in the past, how can we be held accountable of our mistakes? Why can't we just remember, so then we can profit from our previous experiences? That would be way more just, way more fair. So then we don't have to start from the scratch every new life. So this is how Allan Kardec asks. And what the Spirit tells us is that each new existence, the human beings become more intelligent and better able to distinguish between good and bad. So we all remember that we all have perispirit, and this is where all the lessons that we learned from past lives, it's where it's stored. So we bring it lifetime after lifetime. So it's not that we simply forget the fact. Well, in fact, is we forget the fact, we do not forget the lesson. So that sticks within us, and that is what will enable us to have better understanding of who we want to be, of the decisions that we are going to make in this lifetime. What the Spirit tells us in this answer, and it's a lengthy one, but what they tell us is that whenever a spirit, whenever someone goes to the spirit life, so to the origin of life, the past will unfurls to this person. So the person will be able to understand everything that happens, will be able to understand what was done, what could have prevented, what could have been done differently. So that all unveils very clearly to all the spirits. So it's not that we will all of a sudden not know what happens, but it will become clear when we go to our spirit state again. And when that happens, this is when the spirit will make a commitment with God, with the spirits on high, asking for new trials. And then asking for a new opportunity, asking for a new life. And this is when we also ask for the support from the advanced spirits. So we know that the superior spirits will always going to help us, our angels, our mentors, our friends from other lives. And this is exactly the intuition that sometimes we resist. That intuition that tells us, like something, an instinct, that is the conscience of our life. And that conscience comes not only from our past experiences, that lesson that stick into our perispirit, but also from the spirits on high that are supporting us in this journey. But one of the things that we have to be very, very careful is that they even say here, this intuition is the foul thought that often tempts you and that you instinctively resist. So we should be careful whenever we decide not to listen that instinct, because our conscience is able to let us know what path we are going through. And the Spirit also tells us that those who face all the trials with strength and courage rise in the spirit hierarchy to a higher rank. So the spirits are reinforcing to us that, first of all, yes, you forget because it is necessary. But beyond that, it's not that you simply forget the lesson, you forget the act, what caused that lesson to be learned, but you retain the learnings from that action, from that situation. So that is reflected, that is manifested in form of intuition, in form of conscience to all the situations that we face. I will keep going, but please, anyone jump in anytime for you to ask, to complement, to bring any other perspective. So this was question number 393. And then in the next question, what Allan Kardec asks is, what about the advanced worlds? Because one of the things that he reflects is that happiness can be relative, right? Like you have the perception of happiness in reference of something, in reference of a moment that you were unhappy, or in reference or something that you have an illusion for. So in other worlds, how do they understand happiness? What is their standards? And then it's interesting the answer that they say that the answer comes into two parts. The first part are the worlds that inhabitants, they have clear memory of their past lives, and they appreciate the happiness that God permits them to enjoy. And I found that very interesting, because appreciate the happiness that God permits them to enjoy. So they understand the past, they have more clarity, and that clarity comes for them to understand where they are, but they are appreciative of what happened in the past. So definitely these are more elevated worlds, and this happens also because these worlds are less attached to matter, and that's the reason why it's easier for them to recollect what happened in past lives. And then they continue saying that other planets, other worlds, where inhabitants, despite living in better conditions than you, are still subject to great troubles and much unhappiness. They do not appreciate their lives because they have no recollection of a worse experience. So it is interesting, because what they are saying is other worlds where the situation that they might find themselves might be even better than the one that we are facing right now. They are much unhappy that one here in planet Earth could be, because there is no reference of what could be worse. And I just want that for us to be mindful that means that we ourselves could also be in this situation, right? Like we are, sometimes we face unhappiness, but we cannot see that there are other worlds that might be even unhappier than this one. And that's the reason why it is really important that we be mindful to what they told us, that God has given us just what is necessary and sufficient for us to improve ourselves. So the voice of our conscience and the instinctive predispositions. So it's interesting to see that if we go back to our conscience, if we reflect on our instinct, in our predispositions, and when I say instinctive predispositions, I am not talking about those primitive instincts that we all carry, right? Taking us to selfishness, taking us to pride. But if this is something that is really strong on us, I am pretty sure that when we attune with our mentors, with our spirits on high, they will help us to see that this is something that we should be working on. Our selfishness, our prideness, whatever it is that we have to work on. So the guidance is here for us to always look inside of us, because that will help us to see the true happiness regardless of where we are. So moving forward on question 395, one of the things that Allan Kardec asks is, can we obtain revelations regarding our past lives? Because this is something that is super interesting, right? Sometimes we get curious, and sometimes we try to dig in so then we can have better clarity and hopefully better guidance on what to work on. And the answer that comes is that not always we can obtain revelations regarding past life. And it makes sense, right? Because what they just told us is that first, we can be overwhelmed with everything that we have done in the past. And sometimes I want to think that this is a bless, right? Because if we are progressing, we might have done very bad things in our past lives. So forgetting about that is as a gift for us to be able to truly start all over. And how many of us sometimes don't want to simply start over? Like, can I have like a blank page for me to start all over again and do things sometimes differently, sometimes not, but always looking for a brand new opportunity. So every new life is a brand new opportunity, regardless of what we did in the past, of course, with the trials and attunements for us to really put into practice the lesson that we learned in the past life. But if it's not necessary for us to know about something, we should not try to dwell in that thought. We do not need that. And if we do not need that, if we keep asking, the questions might not come, the answers might not come, or if they come, they might not come from the spirits on high, which may bring us into more confusing state rather than really enlightening ourselves. So curiosity is important. We should always look for it. We should always find answers, but the questions should not be done outside of our thoughts. We should always question ourselves. If we are interested to know what have we done in the past, let us then understand what is the situation that we are living right now, because that can bring to us a lot of hints in terms of what needs to be done for us to keep evolving. So on question 396, he says that some people, they have a vague memory. They believe that they have a vague memory of an unknown past, which presents itself as a fleeting image from a dream, you know, those types that one tries to recall, but you can't recall the dream. And the question that Allan Kardec asks is this belief like something true, or is this an illusion? And the answer is that people that believe they have a vague memory of a known past, sometimes it's real, but it's often an illusion that is merely the effect of an overactive imagination. So again, why would we need to know about our past lives if this is not going to move us to a different direction? And this also takes me to, I was listening to a podcast that Mark posted about Chico Xavier, and one of the questions that people were asking is if Chico Xavier is Allan Kardec or not. And in the middle of all the discussion, yes, he is, no, he's not, and all that kind of stuff. Someone, and I think it was Geraldo Lemes, I don't recall, but someone said, who cares? Who cares? This is not going to make his work better or worse, more valuable or less valuable. It just makes the outputs of everything that he has done as incredible, as beautiful, and as helpful as it was in any other situation, if he is or if he's not. So, of course, this is just an example. As I said, it's important for us to have curiosity and try to learn more and more. But if this is not going to change the course of where we are going, we should not dwell on that, because that is not necessary. If it was necessary for us to know, it would have been unveiled already by one shape or other. So if we have this vague memory, or if we believe in something that we might have been in the other life, if that brings you to reflect into things that we can transform ourselves into a better version, then by all means, let's reflect on that. If not, we do not necessarily have to know for us to be better. We have to do good regardless if we did good or bad in the past life. So let's say that in the other life, we were really, really good. We won't say, you know what, I've done my part. I'm not going to do this again. No. And if we did really bad in the past, this is the opportunity for us to move forward without having to dwell in anything that we might have done, good or bad. So this was a guidance from the spirits. Then the next question was around, is recollection of past lives more exact when the physical life experience is of a more elevated nature than ours? So what he's asking is, in other worlds where the spirits are more elevated, can they better understand their past? And then the answer is the remembrance of the past is always clearer in those who inhabit higher worlds. And this is also bringing us back to two or three questions before, what he was saying about how people in different worlds have this recollection of past lives. And here they are further explaining that the incarnate spirits remember the past lives more clearly because the body is less material. So it's easier for us to connect with our perispirit and better understand what is in there. And because in more elevated spirits, we are better able to manage our relationships. So we know that one of the biggest reasons why we do not forget, why we do not remember, is because we have to sort out a relationship that we might have, like screwed in past life, and we are in this life with the opportunity to really reshape that relationship. But sometimes it's really hard. And what we do is we simply forget, because if we did not, maybe that could shake up not the best version of us or not the best understanding. So if we knew that someone have killed us for whatever reason, then we might try to look for revenge. We might try still be very mad or very sad about that person. So the less worried we are with these emotions, with this dark emotions, with this dark behaviors that we bring, the more natural it's going to be for us to truly understand what happened in the past. So it's going to become more clear, the relationships, the situations, what we have done, what others have done to us, and we'll be able to better understand and better manage what that means for our evolution. So on question 393, 98, oh my gosh, I'm mistaking everything. There comes also another very interesting question. As our instinctive predispositions are a reflection of our past lives, can we determine the faults we have committed in the past by analyzing this predisposition? And then the answer is very clear. Yes, of course you can, but up to a certain point. Not everything will be very clear to us, because our present life is a result not only from what happened in the past life, but also a preparation for our future. So again, trying to understand our past to make improvements in our present, perfect. But trying to understand our past just for the sake of trying to understand something that is not clear is not going to make any better for us, especially because one of the things that they answer in this question is our present life might be much better than our previous one. So we do not have to keep coming back and rewatching our sufferings or whatever have happened, because not always that is going to contribute for our future. But one of the things that is extremely important is that we listen to our predispositions, to our intuitions. Because when we listen to our intuitions, and then when we are able to revamp a new version of ours without that thing that our conscience keep bringing back over and over, if we do not resist the temptation of doing the same faults, and if we decide to commit the same but new faults, this will indicate that we are in a stationary state. We know that the spirits, they don't go back in their stage, but they can just be stationary. So I think this is extremely important for us to reflect, because it's very, very common for us to listen things like, I have always been like this, and in this moment in life, I'm not gonna be able to change. Let's remove that statement from our thoughts. First of all, we cannot transform who we are, regardless of our age, regardless of where we are, regardless of what happened yesterday or in past lives. This is exactly the new opportunity that God grants us every single day. And it's up to us to decide who we want to be. We can decide to be someone completely different tomorrow if we think that is going to do better for us and for our brothers and sisters. But it's up to us to take that decision, to be courageous, to have the strength to do and to go against our primitive instincts, which is probably something that we have to work in this physical life. So reflecting on who we are is the most important task that we have in this lifetime. Because by being able to connect with who we are, we should be able to have more clarity on things that we have to work on. So is it patience? Do I have to be more patient? Is it humbleness? We have to be less selfish. Is it discipline? We have to be more committed. Is it kindness? We have to be less rude with people. We all have needs for us to work on. And it's extremely important that we stop a little bit, that we reflect who we are. We reflect what we are doing in our life with all the things that surround us. And then we analyze, what can I do better? So again, the analysis that they are telling us, the analysis is important, but more important than trying to understand the past is to understand who we are now, and with God's blessings, have the opportunity for us to decide who we want to be tomorrow. All right. So the last question is, as the hardships of physical life are atonements for past faults and lessons for the future, can we infer the character of our prior experience from these variations? So what they are asking, in other words, is, if our physical life is a result of what happened in the past, can we analyze our needs in this physical life to point out something that happened in the past life? And then they say, this is done frequently since the nature of the atonement incurred always corresponds to the fault committed. Nevertheless, this should not be considered an absolute rule. Instinctive predispositions provide a more certain indication, as the trials suffered by a spirit are as much for the future as for the past. So as we said, the trials that we go through, yes, they will have some level of attunement coming from past lives, but that doesn't mean that we should not understand our predispositions, our instincts, our intuition to better understand what we should be doing better, how we should be, what, how, why, when, all those questions on things that we could do better. So what they tell us is that while hardships of physical life are atonements for past faults, instinctive predispositions provide a more certain indications as the trials suffered are much for the future. As for the past, is the same passage that I read here. But I think it's important that we reinforce to our mind how important it is for us to listen to our intuitions. I think that I shared with you all that my mom, especially when I was a teenager, she would always tell me before I go to school, you always listen to your intuition. You never neglect your intuition. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And sometimes I would just feel I didn't know what was my intuition and what I was not. And that's the importance for us to give so much guidance and love to the youth, so then we can help them understand what is intuition. So then it can rise and it can get more clear for all of us. And for all of us here who are studying Spiritism for a while, and even if you are a new student of the Spiritism, the more in tune that we are with God, with positive vibrations, the more clear the intuitions are going to be. That is a given. If we do not know what is intuition and what is not, let's get in silence. Let's retreat a little bit and start connecting with God. That doesn't mean that in the first meditation answers are going to come, but I am 100% positive that as we go, as we pray, as we meditate, the answers are going to come very clearly. So if we do not know, try to understand how stressful we are, try to understand how in a rush we are. Let's try to understand what is the noise inside of us that is not allowing us to really get in tune with our mentor, so then we can get clarity of that. Especially because one of the things that also comes into this answer is that the spirits, they always possess free will to allow them to elect which trials they will choose to endure in the physical life, and ultimately choosing between good and bad. So whatever situation we are going through right now, it is in harmony with God's will. It is in harmony with God's will. That means that whatever challenge we are facing right now, for us to accept that with gratitude, believing that with conscience, but most importantly, to work with love, we have to tune ourselves with our mentors, so then we can have better clarity on what can we do better. The revelations are going to come if they are useful. If they are not going to be useful, revelations are not going to come from the outside. It will come from the inside. So they reminds us to always search for the voice of our conscience. We know that God resides in our conscience, so look for our conscience. We only need to study ourselves in order for us to know who we have been and who we want to be, just by understanding our trials and our predispositions. So these ends all the questions from the Spirit's book to this specific chapter. And I did a very small summary here for us to just keep in mind. So if we do not remember any of this chapter, let's stick with this slide, because our trials will purify our past and they will elevate our future. So the situation that we are right now is in harmony with God's will and is helping us to wash away everything that needs to be washed in the past, and is preparing a very strong base for our future. So forgetting the past is a tool for our progress. So we must be harmonized with the fact that forgetfulness is necessary for us to evolve. It's a blessed tool for us to evolve. It helps to promote fair relationships because it enables us to love and to love more and to love a little bit more regardless of what happened in the past. I won't remember who is the spirit mentor who told us that we have free will to love. That's the free will that we have. That's the free will that we have. So we can love. Forgetting the past also helps us to have a genuine moral growth, because remember that we will be able to act regardless of knowing the situation or not. We will do good for the good, regardless if we did something wrong in the past. We'll be doing good because we believe that that's the right thing, because that's what comes with us. So regardless of what situation comes, the situation will not trigger something that do not exist on us, because we cannot be offended by something that does not trigger anything. So it truly helps us to genuinely evolve our moral intellect. And the other thing that we should never forget is that the learnings and the memories will always persist in the spirit. So we are in a state that we can't remember. But when necessary, when important, this will be unveiled to us, and then we can keep working on our progress. But everything that our conscience tells us that we should be doing now or differently, let's do it. Let's not wait for any other new life. We already have a new day. So let's do the best of that. Yeah, and that ends the study, friends. If anyone would like to comment, bring any additions, please feel free to do so.
Thank you, Kiki. Excellent, as always. I think it's so beautiful, and I think it's a very consoling message that Spiritism brings about, past lives, because I think it seems only common or expected that we would say, well, if we don't remember, how can we do anything about it? But I love how Spiritism says, hey, look at yourself right now. You want to understand where you're coming from? Just take a look at where you are right now, and it can be helpful. I think it also helps us to better understand when we talk about God's justice and God's mercy. Just what you said, because, it could be really traumatic to know everything. And it's also beautiful that there is the ability, there is the possibility to recall past lives. But I love how you put the emphasis, if it's necessary, if it's needed, if it's going to be helpful. But for us to go digging around in there, it can be dangerous. I remember a friend telling me she did a past life regression. She had a life where she froze to death. She started to go into this freezing mode, and they had to, yank her out of the session, however they use that. So, I think it requires that we use our discernment and to understand, because, sometimes we can approach this as entertainment. Oh, maybe I was a queen, maybe I was rich and powerful, and how is that going to be helpful? So it is good to use our discernment and think about it. And also I love that it doesn't become a good or bad, right or wrong thing, but really to like you said many times, connect with our conscience, discern, use our intuition, get some guidance, and also reason. Is this reasonable? Does it make sense? What am I hearing? And who am I hearing this from? What's the level of the message I'm getting? It's very important. So thank you so much. Excellent, as always. And now, if anyone else would like to share, please unmute yourself and go ahead and share with us,
Thank
please.
you. Thank you, Kiki. That was very interesting, and that is the question for the life, that we should know where we are coming from, and that the source that we came from is really very important to know. That is has everything, and that is why as you said here, we read that God has given us what we necessary need, and we have everything in ourselves. And you said that we need to try to have a life tomorrow better than today, and today better than yesterday. That is that we our strive, that we try to go back near and near and come closer to our source. The example that I say is like the ocean. We came all from ocean, the drops from ocean, and we need to try to come back to the ocean. Otherwise, we are not complete. We have not everything. We have everything. A drop of water has all the things that is in the ocean, but it cannot be forever. It can be destroyed. It can be damp. It can go in the sand. It can go in the dirt. But when it goes to the ocean, then it's ocean. It's so clear. It has everything. And that is right that some people in this world, they can see where they come from, and they try more and more to get back to there. We are not only from the earth. That is, our body is from the earth. That goes to the earth. But our spirit goes to the spirit, to the first spirit, to the source of spirit that has everything. And then we will be free. As Jesus said, you should know the truth, and the truth makes you free. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohsen. What you said just made me think about one thing that I think it's relevant for us to think whenever doing our nightly review is, what can I do to bring up my best version? What is my best version?
To know yourself.
Exactly. So I think it's a good reminder. Thank you.
I think it also helps us, if we're serious about where we are and not like where we are, it's a good lesson to review ourselves and study our life. But I also think it's good in looking at others. This is where they are. Let them be, and let them grow from their perspectives, their own life lessons, as we have. I mean, I certainly me. Nobody was there pounding in my head. See there, I told you so. See, I told you so. No, I had to learn a lot from my own mistakes. Some things, yeah, people tell you, and you listen, like don't drive off the bridge into the water. Yeah, of course, I'm listening to that. But for a lot of inner things that I have questions about, who am I? Why am I here? What's really going on inside of me? These things I have to spend time and learn, for myself. And I think others have to do the same for their self. But first, they must think of it. They must want to. I can't hand that to them. So, and I think this the beauty of God is the opportunity to look and change and ask questions if you want, and get those answers. I mean, to me, God is just amazing. This whole world and the answers, all that's here, it's just fascinating. It really is. And endless animals and plants. And I mean, it's just amazing. God's just amazing. Anyway, thank you, Kiki. Mhm.
Nice job, sister. Much to digest and think about. And every time you get to take Kardec's words and put your own spin on them, you do a wonderful job. Not just you, but many of us, I think, because we're using terminology and perspectives of today instead of a lot of older approaches and sentence structures, etc. And so you did a really good job of simplifying some pretty darn deep stuff there. And you're right. I mean, I was looking at how many pages there were in the answers. Good Lord. But it is like many of the Kardec books, you have to read them multiple times. And so, your presentation, I need to watch it again. I would just say that knowing yourself there's so many benefits, but it is a daily challenge.
Mhm.
It is, just when you think might have something figured out. Anyway, good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Rod. And I agree with you. It's something that we like reading the spirits. I don't know how many times I've read the spirits book, and every time it brings up something and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm not thinking about this or this perspective. So I really appreciate the fact that we are doing this study, because it enables us to read, to reflect, to discuss. Yeah.
And it is a lot of food to thought, to think, to evaluate, to observe, to really meditate what we are doing here now. And let's be putting this way based on the topic and the teachings of the spiritualist book and Kardec putting together on this part 2, chapter 7. And we are here right now. So we live, I'll be 58 soon. So I live this 58 life, going back to the past and the childhood, the youth, and like middle 20s, 30s, and 40s. So what I'm putting together, basing, reflecting on your speech, bringing to memory, intuition, everything, is that we live every part, like every 10 years, or or every 9 years, or what they say, every 7 years, we change, no? So let me put in that today. If I passed away today, if I leave the physical body that is an instrument for my soul to evolve and to bring the opportunity to learn from the cause and the effects of the previous past life. So in this lifetime, evaluating this lifetime, what I would come back for, where I would like to be born, with family, and what the lessons I need the most for my soul. If the spirit is more evolved, immediately, like you said, the remembrance of the past is always clear in those who inhabit higher worlds. So the higher beings, the spirit more evolved, they always have condition to see clearly all the past life experience, because that will not reflect where they are right now. So in order does not have that condition, it's better to stay hide in their unconsciousness. No, but remember, many of the time, for me in this life, all the over 15 past life memories I had was very important for me and was naturally come and shown to me in my mind to understand the lesson I was having exactly that moment, even though the most painful moment, and bring me strength to keep my spiritual goal. Because when we be reincarnate, preparing to the new life, or where we were before this reincarnation right here, we have a goal. We have a goal with our spiritual mentors and friends. We have a goal with our own soul to see what is my deficiency in my moral, what I need to grow, what I need to work, and my past mistakes that I need to improve. We will say, Spiritism used to say, reincarnation is not a punishment, but an opportunity for growth and progress and progression. So if I have a debt with, for example, Kiki in a past life, in previous life, so I will be born, it depends on my death. With her, I will be born as a daughter or sister because I want to be closer to her, to have the opportunity to have that goal, no? To resolve that situation through what? Through what you said, through love, no? Through love. So a mother, a brother, a sister, a daughter, a husband or wife give us a lot of opportunity to grow and pay that debt or transmuted that death into love, into the progression. So a lot of people ask, and during my over 30 years experience as a therapist, what is my goal in this lifetime? What is my purpose? So we have a purpose with our soul and with one another who is surrounding us. If you are not in your parents' home anymore because you already resolved that situation, depend the way you left them, no? If you left in harmony and peace and a good friendship, you pay that. You resolve that situation. So we move forward. And according to this message on the higher worlds, no, the spirit who inhabits the higher worlds. So where we are being prepared for that, to see our mistakes, to face our mistakes, and to have the courage, not waiting for the future life, but today. What I can do to resolve this in peace in life, to not need to come back to that same experience again, no? It is a lot of food, a lot of things to talk, and let not be hide. Remember Jesus said, not hide the treasure under the bush. So let the light shine. But let the light shine in the situation when I'm ready for that. I have some experience, good experience and bad experience, knowing the past. And so Kardec brought to us that be careful, because sometimes knowing something from the past, like you said, I think a friend of yours, Teresa will say, can be dangerous. You can connect feelings or experience that you're not ready to resolve that situation. So let things come gradually. Ask your divine higher self, your soul, know your soul. Why I need the body? I need the body to learn, to grow, and to evolve. And God give us this amazing opportunity to be here right now, educating ourselves, learning with one another. And it's amazing. I really, really like this. And spiritually say reincarnation is not a punishment, but an opportunity for growth and progression. I want to repeat that again. Thanks so much, Kiki.
Does anybody else have a comment or question? And it can be a question that's not related to the talk as well, too, if you just have a general question. Okay, so then why don't we come back at 5 after the hour for our virtual healing passes? And we thank you again, Kiki, for your presentation, very thorough and extremely helpful to all of us. And remember, if you'd like to watch it again, it is recorded on YouTube.